Hey YouTube, TryNet here. This is the first time I've done a video in quite a while. I've done some Dueling Network videos for the Duelist Ground Championship Series where I played Tech Genis. Um, Here I'm playing something very different and much more degenerate than the previous deck. I went into this tournament hoping that the Chaos Dragons would take out all the Rabbit decks because that's kind of how the matchup goes. I felt it was like 70-30 in favor of Chaos Dragons. And this deck just dominates Chaos Dragons. It's supposed to crush Inzectors, but I lost a match 2-0 to it. It loses to some rogue decks, like Gravekeepers I almost lost to. Rockstun I almost lost to. Uh, I actually lost to a wind-up deck. This deck, obviously you just can't beat wind-ups. Well, let's get into the list. So, starting with the spells, we have 3 Magical Stone Excavation. This whole deck's max rarity, by the way. 1 Dark Factory of Mass Production, 1 Monster Incarnation, 3 Upstart Goblins, 3 Super Rejuvenation, 3 One Day apiece, 2 Magical Mallets. We go into 3 Reloads, 3 Cards of Consonance, 3 Trade-ins, and 2 Pot of Duality. So for the spells, of course the deck's just built to draw cards and then get Exodia extremely fast. Ideally, it's a turn 2 combo deck. You can go off turn 1, but usually you just want to pass turn 1 or pass turn 1 after setting a Reckless Greed and go off the next turn. That's the problem with Inzectors. Most decks cannot just outright kill you. Even Rabbit can only drop a Logia, which can kind of be played around, especially if a Reckless Greed. The problem with Inzectors, of course, they just kill you. That's how I lost, because I went game 1, I passed turn 1. Now what I do is I have a Locomotion Argenix on top of my extra deck, and I place my extra deck face up on the table. Of course, when you see a Locomotion Argenix on top of the extra deck, you're thinking, oh, Frog Monarchs, or Piper, or something that would play a lot of monsters like Tragodia, Gores, and Battle Fader, because those are the decks that tend to play Genix Birdman. So he just outright killed me turn 1, I scooped, he didn't see anything I was playing, he sided wrong, and I still lost game 2 because I probably misplayed, because I played One Day apiece turn 1 out of fear, and I probably had no reason to do that. Anyway, on to the less interesting part. We have 3 Blue Eyes. They are all DDS. We have a Spanish first edition LOB Exodia set. We have 3 Cards of Consonance. 3 Whitestone of Legend. Wow. The card's exactly the same, really. Then for traps, we have 3 Reckless Greeds. A friend of mine was also playing this deck, but instead of playing Reckless Greed, Magical Stone Excavation, and I think he was only playing 1 Duality, and he didn't play Monster Incarnation or Dark Factory, he was playing stuff like Browse and Thunder Dragons, and I think he played a Hand Destruction, Dark World Dealings, that kind of stuff. He went for the all-out turn 1 combo deck, and we both didn't really go off on turn 1, so I didn't see much reason to go all in when I can just set a Reckless and then just go off all the time next turn. The deck just felt way more consistent with Reckless Greeds, and I definitely don't regret playing them. So basically, what you want to do is, when you play this deck, winning the die roll is really good. It's not necessary, but it is very nice to win the die roll. So you win the die roll, draw your 6 cards, shuffle them around, look at them, and then pass the turn. Almost always. Unless you have, like, Cards of Consonance, Trade-in, Whitestone of Legend. You're always just going to pass the turn. Maybe you'll set a Reckless Greed if you have 1 or 2 or whatever. Sometimes you don't even play Pot of Duality unless you have 2 of them, because you just don't want them to know what you're playing. After that, they'll do whatever. Like, I had a Chaos Dragon opponent that just set a Ryko, set a back row, and pass, and then I just outright killed him on my next turn after flipping a Reckless Greed. My opponent was playing Rockstun once. He summoned a Fossil Dyna, set a back row. I drew for my turn, flipped a Reckless Greed, and then killed him with Exodia. It was kind of crazy. Like, the deck just does stupid stuff sometimes. It's really degenerate. I don't recommend taking this to your locals. It is not a fun deck for your opponent, however much fun it will be for you to actually pilot. The Goldfish is really interesting. There's a lot of different things you can do with Magical Stone that you can't do with a build more like my friend Rob's build, which he didn't play Magical Stone. You can go like Rejuvenation for 4 times and draw 24 cards in your end phase. There's all these situations where you can suddenly just win the game out of nowhere with Magical Stone Excavation when you really didn't think you could draw your whole deck. I actually drew my whole deck once after going Cards of Consonance, 1 Day of Peace, Trade-in, and then I had 2 Blue Eyes, 2 blue eyes, so I have reincarnation for a white stone to put the dragon count at 3. Then I Dark Factory for both blue eyes. I played a rejuvenation, magical stone discarding a blue eyes and the white stone to get back the reincarnation and putting rejuvenation to 5. Play rejuvenation again. End phase, draw 10 cards, drawing one of the rejuvenations. Play that rejuvenation, draw into a reload. Play that reload, draw the third rejuvenation, draw all but 3 cards in my deck or something. And then I think I still won that turn after reloading a couple times, and it was just crazy. Yeah, Magical Stone adds a lot of consistency to the otherwise kind of iffy deck. I'm playing 2 Pot of Duality because usually you're drawing 20 cards in your end phase, so you only really see half your deck, and you really do want to see a Pot of Duality every game. The card's probably the best draw spell on the deck, aside from, I guess, Cards of Consonance, which is the +1. Or Super Rejuvenation, which draws your whole deck. That's not really a draw spell, it's like a combo card. So for matchups, you have Inzectors, which is usually fine, but I'm pretty sure I misplayed. You should probably just pass turn 1. You don't need the 1-day turn 1. I asked around, a couple people said their FTK chance was around like 35%, others said it was 30%, which means you should probably just hold the 1-day piece for turn 2. Which guarantees that you'll be able to like Reckless Greed or something and just go off on. You rarely fizzle after turn 2. If you can stall a turn, you're winning. The Rabbit is annoying. If they open Rabbit, it's difficult. If they open Double Rabbit, you just scoop. Now, it's the same for every deck, really. Any deck that gets Double Rabbited on generally loses. But, like, for this deck, it's like you don't even get to play, so you don't... It feels a lot worse when you get Double Rabbited with this deck than most other decks. There's Chaos Dragon, which I was hoping to play all tournament, which is a completely free win. Paul Clark was giving me a deck profile, and afterwards I said something about Chaos Dragons just being free, so he demanded that we playtest. So I borrowed his deck, he borrowed my deck, and we played a game. And it was just, I opened the nuts. I had Future Fusion, Recharge, Charge the Light Brigade, and I still could not kill him. Because it was just like turn 1, I went first, so I won the die roll, and then he, 1-day piece, set double Reckless Greed, and then killed me on his next turn. What other decks are there? You have Chaos Dragon, you have Inzectors, you have Rabbit. Those are the big 3, I think. You have decks like Final Countdown and Chainburn, which you actually just cannot lose to. Unless Chainburn opens the nutty turn 1 hand. I don't even know if that's possible. Can Chainburn turn 1 you? Let's see. Let's not delve into that. This is a video about a deck that is more degenerate than Chainburn. My losses were to wind-ups, because you can't beat that deck unless you draw Maxi post-board. It just even if they don't have the loop, it forces you to play like they do all the time, because you can just randomly lose to it, so you have to go all in. What I ended up doing was I had like 6 cards in hand, and I had the Magical Stone for Cards of Consonance, and I played it, and I didn't draw anything live, so I was out of the game after Reckless Greeting myself. If you draw good, you don't have any bad matchups. When you draw mediocre, you have, I guess, Rabbit's bad, Wind-Up's pretty bad. Inzectors can be bad if you can't piece them. And then you have some free win matchups like Chaos Dragon and Heroes, which just never beat you. But yeah, this deck could be cool for a regional if you wanted to take it to a YCS, or if you think you can improve on it, post in the comments. I'm glad to hear any kind of constructive improvements. I finished pretty bad with this deck. I was 5-3, dropping round 8 after losing to Rabbit the last round. My losses, by the way, were to Wind-Ups, Rabbit, and Inzectors. I'll post a tournament report in the comment section. And I hope to be doing more of these videos in the future. I've been kind of slacking lately. I'll see you, YouTube.